Floods, explosions, guns. What next? Catherine grumbled, half out of breath from the slippery sprint down the Cloaca Maxima. A meteor drops in the center of Rome? They had run maybe a quarter mile from where the bullet struck the wall. A quick sweep of Paolo's light had revealed a pair of shadowy figures descending into the debris-strewn sewer from the construction tunnel above. It didn't take a huge leap of logic to figure out they were the ones who had shot the wounded man Catherine and Paolo had left behind. But why? Catherine asked in between lungfuls of increasingly fetid air. Why would they kill one of their own? We do not know that he was one of them. Perhaps they chanced upon him, as did we. Suddenly, a 2,000-year-old sewer is a popular meeting place? Paolo looked back. A blade of sharp light cut through the tunnel, maybe 50 yards behind them. He grabbed Catherine's arm and pulled her forward even faster. I, too, do not understand, he answered. But now is not the best time to ponder unsolved puzzles. The crack of a gun sent another bullet ricocheting through the cloaca. Catherine and Paolo accelerated, slipping and stumbling over the wet paving stones. Maybe, Catherine gasped, her lungs aching. We're close to the entrance in the forum? We are far past it, Catherine. This particular passage is not familiar. Jolly. Behind them they could hear the thundering tromp of heavy boots. I believe, Paolo continued, it leads to the Tiber. The river? Guttural shouts from behind them triggered a new rush of adrenaline. Catherine slipped on a slick paver, but quickly recovered and charged ahead. She and Paolo ran side by side, each pacing the other, the wavering beam of Paolo's flashlight guiding them through the tunnel. The water level in the ancient drain was rising. The Cloaca Maxima must have been fed by countless other small conduits throughout the city. Catherine tried to remember how far it was from the Forum to the Tiber. The water might well be waist deep or higher by the time they reached the river, if they reached the river. A bullet slammed into the wall to Paolo's side. Fragments of stone and mortar blew away, striking his face like shrapnel. He stumbled and fell, splashing to his hands and knees. The flashlight went tumbling out of his hands and landed with a splunk in a deeper pool of water. The light flickered and popped as the batteries short-circuited. Merda! Catherine grabbed Paolo's shoulder. In the watery glow of the dying flashlight, she could see him wincing in pain. She frantically scanned the tunnel around them, saw nothing but smooth masonry walls. More shouts and the sweeping high-powered light cutting back and forth across the tunnel, just a few tens of yards behind them, stopped her cold. She froze, unable to move, her thoughts racing even faster than her pounding heart. Go, Paolo said, in a soft but commanding whisper. Run for the Tiber. The young priest's eyes met her own. A streak of blood ran down his temple to a cheek damp with tears. Catherine took a deep breath. Her lips pursed in concentration. She willed herself calm, focused her mind. Her pulse steadied. She shot a look back toward their approaching pursuers, then once more around the walls of the passage. A thin line of shadow ran up the masonry wall a few feet away. She hadn't noticed it before, but now studied it intently. Even in the gloom of soggy, sputtering light, one vertical course of stones clearly stuck out further than the others. Catherine hooked her arm beneath Paolo's and hauled him up. No time for niceties. Come on, she commanded. With her help, he staggered to his feet, and together they lurched to the side of the passage. Approaching the wall, Catherine saw what was indeed a slight depression or niche, partially hidden from view by the line of stones set forward a few inches from the surrounding wall. It might have been a connection to another side passage, long sealed up and forgotten. The crack of a gunshot blasted through the tunnel. A bullet skipped across the water at their feet. Catherine jerked Paolo aside, shoving him into the niche. He started to protest, but she clamped a hand over his mouth. She pressed her face close. Father, silencio! Paolo nodded passively and pressed himself back as far as he could against the damp stones. He started to pull Catherine back as well, but she broke free of his grasp and hopped out of the cloaca. She slipped off her pack and tossed it downstream, where it landed with a splash in the darkness beyond the feeble underwater glow of Paolo's dying flashlight. Catherine plunged her hand into the water and grabbed the light. She aimed it back toward the rapidly advancing men, waggled it a bit, trying to mimic the appearance of a frantic retreat, then gave it a sidearm fling with as much power as she could muster. It sailed down the cloaca, bouncing off the wall and clattering to rest on a dry patch of pavement. The weakening beam cast a dim but steady cone of yellow light further down the cloaca. Catherine leapt back to the niche and flung herself into it, pressing tightly against Paolo's body. "Now you've really got something to tell your mama," she whispered. Catherine clamped her eyes shut. She steadied her breathing and felt Paolo do the same. They inhaled together, then slowly exhaled. His breath was warm on her neck. In fact, his whole body radiated a comforting heat. Comforting and, despite the circumstances, slightly arousing. She guiltily eased back. Although she couldn't see his face, she felt sure it was turning red. The thought made her smile, but then the sound of the men splashing along the tunnel erased any sign of emotion. She took one last breath and held it.